And when I introduce you, maybe you can like acknowledge that it's you. So first I'll introduce MisSa Blue. They are one of 4 black sword swallowers in the entire world. They've been awarded the Specialty Act Singer, Dancer, Writer, Poet, Exhibit Artist Award. They've also been voted #1 most influential burlesque figure in Europe in 2018. They are the first sword swallower to the legendary Burlesque Hall of Fame in Las Vegas. They are a resident at Proud Embankment London's high-end dinner show, and they do so much work, intersectional work for the Black community within the burlesque performance art field, and I'm so grateful to have them with us today. We also have Akynos. Akynos, she has so many different stage names. One of them is motherfucking Akynos. I'm sorry I'm stuttering, it's because I'm so nervous to be around all of you guys. I'm just like, how do I talk straight? But let me just center myself. But okay, yes, so many stage names. One of them is motherfucking Akynos, and she has a tagline, "The Beast of Burlesque," given to her by her good friend, Voodoo Onyx. She is a leadership and program developer and organizer. She is also a member of several different sex worker led organizations where she's lobbied in New York State against condoms as evidence and helped make recommendations on human rights policies at the UN. Some of these wonderful organizations she hopes you all will support are the Desire.
Desiree. Okay. One who is desired, Desiree. That's what it means, one who is desired.
Oh, that's beautiful. The Sex Worker Film and Arts Festival, Best Practices Policy Project, SWAP NYC, We Are Dancers, and the New Jersey Red Umbrella Alliance. Because being a hoe should be every woman's or person's fundamental right, and sex work is work, don't debate her on that. And last but certainly not least, we have Viola Vixen. She is the owner and founder of the Shimmy Shake Berlin and Hamburg Burlesque Schools, the co-founder of Berlin Burlesque Academy, and the previous owner of the Bombshell Burlesque Academy in Brisbane, Australia. Is it Brisbane or
Brisbane? Brisbane. Brisbane. I like Brisbane better. Brisbane.
Oh, Brisbane.
Viola has headlined the Australian Burlesque Festival Tour and was listed by 21st Century Burlesque as one of the world's most influential burlesque industry figures in 2018, coming in at number 71 in the world and number 6 in Europe. Y'all are some motherfucking geniuses. What? MisSa, are you still there? Just double checking. Wasn't sure.
Sorry, I just had to switch on my heating. It's kind of getting cold here.
Oh, good for you. Staying warm. So all of you have done so much work within the burlesque community. And Akynos, you in particular do work in sex work advocacy, and you have currently on Instagram, the Black Sex Workers Collective, which has gained so much traction. I believe even FK Twigs made a call out for it after being called out by sex workers, mind you. But I wanted to ask you first question of the night, for you individually, what does openly being a sex worker and sex work advocate mean to you, and how does it shape your perspective to the relationship with your body and your craft?
First, can I ask, where are we live on Facebook? Can I share the live? What page will we live from?
Guys, the address is in the comments here.
Oh. I didn't even know that. You should know that. Oh shit, hold on. Did I close it? All right, I'm sorry. I'll get to that. I'm randomly really tired. Like just all of a sudden, like full depression, exhaustion.
Oh no.
Ew. Okay. I better not be pregnant, Viola.
I hope you are. Chances
Girl.
cousin.
Well, I'm not the one complaining. Give me that baby. I'm trying to make Akynos have a baby with me, guys.
by immaculate conception. What does being a hoe mean? What? I'm sorry. That's a whole bunch.
Not yet.
I mean, sex work is just being a hoe to me. So
okay,
all
then
the same.
I can rephrase it.
All,
okay, so for you individually, what does being a hoe and a hoe advocate mean to you, and how does it shape your perspective to the relationship with your body and your craft? We're so I'm sorry.
How does it shape? I don't even know how to answer this. I like when you're in the work, you're very mindful of how your appearance is, because in both sex work and in burlesque, it's very sizes. No matter how we might think any woman like in sex work can make money regardless of how she looks, it's really not true. And in burlesque as well, you can see it at least in the last few decades, at least, just really how sizist it is. So it makes you really hyper aware of your appearance and how you look and how others are perceiving you. So when I go on stage, even when I've gained some pounds, I still try to hide it a little bit. But even when I'm out there, I still try to act like I'm not really this big. But being in the business, in both aspects of entertainment, with sex work entertainment, adult industry, and burlesque, which is actually both it's the same to me. They're not really separate. It just makes me really hyper aware, and I try to work out, but I really like food, so that doesn't go very well.
I hear that, but
I just had a Twinkie today.
Did you say that you have a 45-inch ass?
Well, I'm 100 and about 80 pounds now, so maybe it's 48.
That's amazing. I remember when I first saw you perform, I was just so struck. I love seeing bodies like yours represented. Black femme bodies on stage is so important. And but you talking about how you gained a couple pounds, and
I gained 20
pounds. Well, listen, I gained 60 pounds during my pregnancy, and it's not gone. It's still there.
You just had a baby, though.
Yeah, calm down. It doesn't go. It goes into your boobs. It goes into your boobs.
It just happened. You sound like my neighbor. She's like, I have to lose the weight. I'm like, your baby's 3 months old.
Yeah, no. 1 year.
Mine is 20. Mine's 25.
That's amazing. I'm like, wait, what? When did you have your child? At 2?
Practically.
But this brings me to my question to La Viola Vixen, who's also a parent as well. And I want to say that you gave birth to a beautiful little girl in 2014. An interview with indierepublic.com you mentioned was hotter than a MILF, and that you hope that you would see your postpartum body as positively as you view those of your peers. And I wonder, what was your process of accepting your body after giving birth?
Yeah, well, I mean, lol, trust me to say something like there's nothing hotter than a MILF, idiot. But also kind of true. Yeah, I think it's a real process. It's easy to look at somebody else's body and to think that looks amazing and powerful. But I struggled with, dysmorphia and eating disorders for many years. And I decided when I had a little AFAB baby that I was not going to be carrying that shit on with her. And that I needed to really stop it and be someone who ate dinner with her and all of that. And so that was a constant, pretty big struggle, that does even come up now. but I really committed to that. And I think even when I do struggle with my body now, and some things are, you know, less flexible and weaker and a little softer, even after 5 years, almost 6 years, I also can like remember and look at my body and know that it grew and birthed a human, and there's nothing more powerful than that. So I'm pretty proud of like what my body's capable of. And then also there's this, you know, the whole like whore Madonna paradigm bullshit that we have to deal with, which I think is something that I'm really committed to, you know, creating visibility between being a parent and a sexual being, and performing as a burlesque parent. You know, I kind of consider us like sex work adjacent, if not sex workers. Everyone has a different opinion on that. I think it's really important to kind of have some visibility around these bodies that, you know, are really wonderful parents and present parents, as well as being sexual beings that work and perform for you. So I guess I would say it's a work in progress, you know, always, but I do feel really proud of my powerful body and what it can do. Yeah.
Right. I really hear that, because I mean, like, sorry, there's something in my eye. I've been struggling with this whole time.
Like, did I make you cry?
I was really but I think, like, especially like in, you know, when you do have a child and stuff like that, it's really important not to put like your like insecurities and project your traumas onto them and whatnot. And I'm really grateful that you said something like that. And within the burlesque world, I think what's interesting is that like now you're starting to see more representation of bodies, and that's not for nothing. It's because of the work that you all have done here, and also those who came before you as well. This brings me into a question for MisSa. My questions got all jumbled, I'm sorry. But in your TEDx presentation, you spoke about finding healing and empowerment through dismantling your fears and transforming them into creative energy. And when you began performing in London's pubs and cabarets, they said that you were too exotic to be booked, while you witnessed your white counterparts being booked completely and being helped. And you then convinced yourself that all of these qualities that were being scrutinized and being excluded from these spaces were something that was a gift. And that like really, really touched me. And I wonder, like, what was your process of even coming to this conclusion, like doing that work, and how do you take the steps to maintain that truth?
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I grew up with white parents. I had an ego so blown up. I believe that everything, like that I can do everything and anything in the world is reachable, because that's what white people think. Yeah, I know.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Paul.
Look at this cat. Oh my God.
This cat
Okay,
is
this is Paul. Paul needs to be, he's always with me when I'm online or when I'm filming. It's like, this is just him being himself. He's a stage whore. Yeah, so I definitely, when I started out in London, my self-worth, it was a lot better than it's now, to be honest. And now I have like a lot of skills and can actually show something. But I think this is really my background. I've been brought up in a white family, in a white neighborhood, in a white school. And I think my parents raised me like as if I was white. And because I see this kind of self-confidence on a lot of white people. And I don't see it at a lot of like mixed heritage background or Black people, especially now that I have a lot more Black friends. I just thought whatever I want to do, I can do it. And I just believed in myself because this is what I was being told. And I mean, I'm really thankful for my parents that they raised me like that, because I would just walk into a space that wasn't actually prepared for me or that wasn't inviting me. I would just, if people tell me no, I would just walk into the back door. Like I was like completely oblivious to a no. I wouldn't take no for an answer. If I'd be like, I want to do this, and people were like, I'd be like, I know the way, I know a way around how I can get there And I think this is really something that helped me get through this. Arriving in London, and I've been completely like, for a very long time, I had no idea I was dealing with actual racism. I was just like, I felt treated unfair constantly, but I thought, for a very long time, I thought I was being a dick. But then again, I was still like kind of going for what I wanted. And it took me a long time to understand what was actually really going on. And I think the more performers of color came onto the scene, which is only recently, the more I understood what I was actually fighting against. And there are so many layers to it. I mean, this whole you're too exotic for my show. And these are people, I mean, I'm telling you, I have producers in London who say, I'm too exotic for their show. They help me get gigs with other people, but they would not book me for their own show. Still now, these people are we're not friends, but we're friendly. They're like, I just got a like corporate gig from a person referred that I know, who said this to me like 7 years ago, and he still would never book me for his show, but he shuffled good gigs towards my way. But he would not put me in front of his audience. Like, this is so fucked up. There's so many layers to it. Yeah. But I think when I got here, I was oblivious to it. I just thought, I'm going to come and take whatever I want. And if I can't get it the easy way, I take the hard way, because I had nothing to lose, And I just thought that was my only and last go on becoming a performer. And usually when I put something into my head, I just do it. But also now that I see all the nuances, it hurts a lot more. The aftermath of building my career is a lot harder than going through it.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the crazy thing, because you say like you had always had to work harder anyway, but the fact that what you do is something that, like I said earlier, you're one of 4 Black sword swallowers in the entire world, and yet you go to London and you see all this exclusivity that's happening to you, of all people there. And then when you put people on, it's like, what the hell? Like, why are you not putting me on in the same way? And that's why I find
it changed now. So 5 years, I made my white act, which I traveled all around the world. I made it 5 years ago in London. I had it filmed, and it hasn't changed until today. It's the same act that performed at BHAF. It's the same act that went to Japan, the same act that went to Australia. Nobody in the UK wanted to book this act. Nobody. Like, I applied to every show I could think of. I did not get one single gig. And now people are complaining to me in the UK because I'm not selling this gig cheap now. This, like, if you want this act, it's expensive. Right. And people complain to me about the money I want for it. Because, I went to BHAF, but I didn't even win, But I'm like, I don't care. It's like, you didn't want it 5 years ago. It's the same thing. So you made me like, because of the situation, I traveled around the world and it got really successful. But now these people can't get it cheap. So it's like, it's a win-win situation. They can have it, but they have to pay me money now.
Right, exactly. And fucking amen to you for that. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you're the one who did the work of like making sure that you were good and making sure that you had like you used your skill in order to put yourself on in the end.
Babe, I had to nearly die to be recognized. And this is like, I think this is the big thing. Where I grew up, I got adopted with white parents, and they told me, and this is society, what is like, we are being molded into this. It's not me making it up that I have to work harder. My parents told me that when I was 5, when I got into school with 7, they told me, you will always have it harder. You always have to work 200% more. You have to deliver like a lot more than anybody else to get to the same point. This is what my parents told me. I didn't make this up. So I think this is like this is like society shaping you into this, like, you can either be Black or you be a superhuman. And then your color doesn't matter anymore. And I think until I learned how to swallow swords, I was still hunting this, like all my life I've been hunting becoming a superhuman, because only then I thought I can be treated normal.
Mhm.
And when I actually nearly died, I was like, fuck this shit.
Mm.
Like now I need to find identity instead.
Mm.
But then also since I stopped hunting so much, I feel like I'm respected more. So
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And Akynos, I wanted to also speak to you on this because you also do so much labor, like for the community, in burlesque and also in sex work, from doing advocacy for against organizations that are going against sex work, to running your own one-woman show. And I just wanted to speak to you about one quote that you said on your website. Being a hoe should be every woman's or person's fundamental right.
I
And
don't
I
even
also,
remember this.
huh? You said you don't remember
I don't
that?
remember this, but go ahead. Yeah. I'm sure I said it. It's been so long.
But I mean, like, I don't know, like for me, I was like reading it recently and it still resonates because like, I mean, I want you to elaborate on that right there. Just like maybe like hearing this again nowadays, and knowing that it came from your mouth, like, how does that resonate with you now?
But being a hoe should be your fundamental right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I think every person who's at the margins, Black women, trans and non-binary people, and women in general, I think it's very important that we have a daily practice of disrupting the patriarchy and pissing them off and all the rules that they make. And one of the ways to constantly do that is to be really sexually liberated. And sexual liberation can mean anything. It doesn't have to mean that you are promiscuous. It could also mean your right to not want to have sex or not want to be sexual. And the patriarchy doesn't like that. These systems in place don't really want that. They want to make the rules on how every individual person should be, when is a good time to have sex or not have sex, or who you should do it with and how it should be done. And I think it's really important for us to make sure that we express ourselves sexually in any way that makes us happy. Right. And I really want to stress how that does not mean that you have to be having intercourse or be as wild as I was and, be a hoe like I am. But you should definitely do whatever you want, whenever you want to, and whomever you want with. And that should be your, most basic right. And I think once people kind of come into tune with that, then a lot of the arguments that we're having about sexuality could maybe be solved a little bit. Maybe if people were more true to whatever their sexual nature is, maybe we won't be having so many conversations on like if sex work should be decriminalized or legalized, or having these conversations around sexual assault victims and whether we should believe these people who are victimized and such. I just feel like that might be a good starting ground for people, but a lot of people are not really honest with themselves about who they are and or who they want to be. They seem to be like maybe getting influenced by outside sources, which is fine, but they don't really know who they are. So it projects itself out to other realms of society, and then it just causes problems for everyone else. So like to politicians who make a lot of these laws, which are like old grumpy white men a lot of times, and very conservative women who uphold that patriarchal stance, I feel like if they just be honest, like, hey, I want to be a slut, the world would be a better place.
Absolutely. And I also see that like you spoke about like how like you are very comfortable with your sexuality, and I read that like not only did I read, but like that you were posing for new magazines at 17, but also within your work, I see like the way that you've reclaimed your sexuality and your comfort with sexuality on stage. And what was your process for that?
I think I was actually posing at 18. I think I started stripping at 17. And I was in the strip clubs at 17. No, I think I know I did my first magazine at 21, I think. I think I did Blacktail at 21 and maybe again at 23, some shit like that. It was like super young. You know, I don't know. You know, I'm Jamaican, so it's a very sexualized culture that we're from. And I didn't have like the kind of parents that said I couldn't wear certain things. Like I didn't grow up like that. You know, I was very young, wearing like very revealing clothing and dancing and just having a good time. And my parents were super strict and like not even borderline asshole. They were just fucking crazy. But like there was still like there was like some freedom, like, you know, like I never expected to have to cover up or anything like that. So, you know, I guess maybe that's where it came from. Yeah, I don't know how to like answer the question on like my sexual. Oh, I guess, but I don't know. I guess maybe that's where it starts. It starts in childhood. Who knew? Who knew? If your parents let you wear fishnets and bra tops in the summertime, you're gonna be a burlesque stripper showing your ass on stage in your 40s. That's how it happens.
Very least.
They should have been more strict, and maybe I wouldn't have been naked on a magazine cover. I don't know.
But what I really appreciate about you, Viola Vixen, like speaking about family, is that you don't hide your burlesque from your daughter, and I find that really inspiring and beautiful.
I hide some things, okay?
I definitely hide. You can't let these kids into everything, but you take her to your tame shows.
Yeah.
And you also have schools. You have the Shimmy Shake classes here in Berlin, where you work on characterization and also act building. And I wonder, how do you incorporate the same, I guess, openness with body within your teaching style?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I've, got all these burlesque children as well, after all these years of teaching so many of them. And I really want to make sure that I'm clear about the fact that, burlesque has this reputation of being accepting of all bodies, and it really hasn't always been. And to make that happen, we need to work hard to create space for all bodies. And so I guess in my teaching, I really make that clear that yes, all bodies are acceptable, and not acceptable, but there's space for all bodies in this industry, 100%. But we do need to do work to have them there, and to have them shown there, and to be accepted, and have that message. So I always want to make sure that my students are understanding of the fact that, particularly if they're, cis young white women, that we've got like a job to do as well. Yeah. And that, we need to use our like privilege and not take up too much space also. So I guess we have like pretty big conversations sometimes in my classes, which is probably not in like common burlesque casual teaching, vibes. But it's really important to me that the space that I take in burlesque is, achieving something in like a greater good, than just being that we can roll in and like all bodies are burlesque bodies. It's like they are, but we need to work for that.
Right.
Yeah. We need to do more work for that. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, you did. Absolutely. I wonder, like, if you could speak a bit about, because you said historically burlesque has not been a space that has been accepting of bodies. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Well, I think if we, go back even just a couple of years and look at like lineups in burlesque, particularly where we're working in Europe, that when it comes to including fat bodies and black bodies, Indigenous people of color bodies in our industry, that there was, pretty slim pickings and a lot of tokenization happening there. So that didn't just happen by accident, and the change isn't happening by accident. It's the really acknowledgement and really looking at the kind of powerful and listening to powerful voices of people like MisSa and Akynos. And there's a number of people, I think, like particularly Black AFAB femme voices that have been coming through really strong in burlesque, that have shaken things up pretty deeply. Cocoa Butter Club, for example, and G's Louise, Pearl Noir, and they've been having, like really kicking the door. And then people like, queer people, queer voices, Ruby Jones, Kitten and Lou, that have been unapologetic about bringing, well, we can call them politics, but really just not being a shit person into burlesque, and making, we don't, space and change doesn't just happen by accidentally. It has to happen because people intend it to and do work for it. And I think that's been the big thing, is some people have really invested in, in creating that space. And it's, I can see like a change happening, and a lot of people are listening more and passing the torch on. And I feel like it is, I don't know, I'd prefer to hear that from these two than from me if they see that change as well. But I'm hoping that we're getting there, and that the work we're doing is, having an impact.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that these wonderful people are existing here, I see that the work is manifesting. MisSa Blue, I have a question for you. Speaking about self-esteem, you said in your TEDx talk that sword swallowing attributed a lot to your self-esteem, and that it was something that you were able to do and do extraordinarily well. And LGBT Africa, you said that it is one of the only skills that puts the performer at real risk of dying in every single performance. To master a skill like this, one needs to have total control over your mind and body. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, my self-esteem was really, I mean, I did mention earlier that I had like that I was quite, I can have everything sort of thing. This is like what I got taught from home. But then I think what also in school times happened, I went to a school that wasn't really constructed for me. So like 85% of my classmates, they are doctors and lawyers now. And obviously I dropped out before Abitur. And I felt like from that time onwards, nobody expected anything to come off me really. Like I was like a rebel and like always like the underdog in a way. So I was like rebelling my way through my life for quite some time. And I was like kind of, my mom died very early, and I kind of had like some guilt baggage from home because I was a difficult child. So that's why my mom got cancer, which is completely, I mean, now I know this is bullshit, but as an adolescent, you're kind of, you take these things on board and you end up with this big bag of shit that's lasting like on your back, and which kind of kills your self-esteem. And I had a eating disorder for the longest of time. 15 years I battled with bulimia. And also when I went finally into hospital, people were kind of, after such a long time, you'll never be able to get rid of it. But I did. And I think this was one of my first success stories in my life. Like when I was 35, I won the battle against this eating disorder, where everybody just told me, no, you will never win. And I think from then on, there was like this kind of snowballed into my conscience. Like it was like a domino effect, but the domino stones were falling very slowly. But like they were going towards, like confidence was building like up within me in a way. And I kind of because this success kind of gave me the power to say, you know what, I wanted to be a performer all my life, but this is actually the thing I want to do. But now I got the confidence and to just go and do it. And all these little steps until I obviously then to become a sword swallower is something that you really have to, you have to sit down with yourself and go like, you want to do this because you might be die. And it's a consideration, and of course I was like, okay, my parents already had died. I don't have children. I didn't have a partner in this time. So it was like kind of the only person I gotta be freaking out constantly is myself. Can I live with this? Yes or no? And I guess in those terms, it was a little easier because I have colleagues who have stopped because their mom couldn't deal with it. Like they were literally like, I'm giving my mom a heart attack and I can't. My mom is 60. I can't. Every time she goes on, I go on stage, she, I don't know. So I didn't have to deal with these sort of outside issues. I only had to deal with myself. But it was a really, I think it was, it became a self-test because I did think, I think with conquering the skill, I've proven to myself that I'm special. It sounds really self-indulgent, but I think if you feel like you've always been an extra add-on that nobody actually invited or wanted for your whole life, to kind of make yourself feel like you matter is not easy, because you can like take drugs and get, you get high. I did that and I got high and I feel good when I'm high, but then when you get off the drugs, you feel worse than before. Or you can get yourself a partner that makes you feel like you are special, but when you break up, this is gonna go. So there is like, it's very difficult to, and I think this sword swallowing definitely came before I understood what self-care really means to, So because with sword swallowing, I conquered the skill, but then I had to change my life entirely, because everything is after a clock now. Like I had to stop eating spices. I had to stop eating half of the things I like, really, because it doesn't agree with my job. I cannot drink. That's why every time people see me on leisure, I have a glass of wine in my hand, because when I'm working, I can't drink. I can't, there are so many things I had to let go. I mean, I will never be able to take drugs again if I want to keep swallowing swords. And like people, it's like, of course, now it's been so many years that I'm not interested anymore. But, like having a casual party on a Saturday night after a gig doesn't work for me, because it puts me out of work for like a week or two. So so my life has changed drastically, like from being actually very free and doing whatever I want to being in a really strict like military like regime. And I think this was like, and there was like therapy. There was a therapy aspect to it, because it got me out of the shit. Like it got me to pull my life together, and with pulling myself together to do this job, everything else came together as well. Because if if you just concentrate all the time, you do this also when you are at home doing your admin, and like it changes your life. But it was it was like this kind of, I made myself feel special in a way that I've never felt before. And I think I built my self-esteem through that. But now I'm like, I don't need to swallow swords to feel this way anymore. But this is just it's the process started with doing this thing that I didn't think I can do. I mean, I believed in myself, but it was like, when I started trying, I was like, I don't know.
You did it, and it's amazing. And it is a freaking special ass thing that you do. And I mean, I think it's wild that you have such a strict regimen in order to like maintain your craft. And I think that's the inspiring aspect of it as well.
I think.
Can I say something
yeah.
to MisSa? Sometimes when I think about trying to be disciplined, I think about you a lot, but it never works out.
I think the discipline really, the discipline came after my accident. I was disciplined from the beginning a lot more. Like I was disciplined from the beginning, but I had my accident, and I mean, I wasn't being crazy, doing weird things, but I was like sloppy with myself. And I think after the accident, I had to make a decision. It's like either going with this discipline or just leave it. But walking away from a career like this is crazy, because I felt like I worked for 7 years so hard to get to a point. And then in the first year of swallowing swords, I was like, I can't walk away from this now, because then I have nothing. And this is, I think, what's the sad thing as well, because I felt like the sword swallowing had given me a career, and that everything I've done before was not worth much. Now I feel like different about it, and I think people feel different about it because I'm a sword swallower. Now they also look at the rest of my life, because now it's interesting. I don't, I feel like, and this is like, I think what's the difficult bit in it, which I'm still like biting my teeth out sometimes on. It's like, if I would have not been a sword swallower, would people listen to me? Or actually, would people, would it have been possible to do the step up into like this tier of of the performer I am now? And I'm not sure.
It's interesting that you say that, because personally, like as someone the producer that's booked you before, I actually thought about your burlesque often before your sword swallowing, or at least as equal parts, and then whenever you pull the swords out, I'm like, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Swords. But I think I just thought of you like as a really strong burlesque performer, even separately to the swords. I'd say
that's interesting. I mean, I didn't have a lot of burlesque booking before I started sword swallowing.
Interesting. I didn't even
doing
know
all
that.
sorts. I was a fire performer in London. That's what I got booked for, and fetish. But like nobody ever wanted any of my burlesque acts. So it's really interesting. I think it's very interesting to see and hear what I see and feel, and what other people, the perceptions are different as well.
Yeah.
So.
Right now we have 1 minute until 7. I know, Viola, you have to go soon. And so I just want to open this up to Q&A.
We have to go at 7 or 8?
I think it's 8.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's 8 o'clock.
I think a few minutes, a little bit longer is okay. I haven't had any complaints from yet.
Okay. Yeah, because like I have more questions, but I don't want it to end up that it gets cut short, So right now I think I'll just open it up to Q&A and see if anybody has any questions, and if not, we can just continue our talk if everybody is okay with going, and maybe until like 8:10.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I just have to remember it's like 7 in London. That's why I got so confused. Okay.
Yeah, and we have the daylight savings started yesterday here as well, right?
Yeah.
Which is really confusing.
So
I just have mom brain. I don't even know what time it is.
Yeah. Welcome. It lasts a long time.
Right. I thought like, oh, once I have this baby, I'm gonna be able to think again, and I'm still just like, who am I? What's life?
No, I can't believe you like put all that makeup on. You look so put together today. So cute.
I'm not though. This is a mask. Like if I take it off, it'll be like, whoa.
How are your boobs going?
My boobs are leaking all the time. Like randomly, all of a sudden they'll just get like really sore, and then milk starts to drop.
Yes.
But let's see on this Facebook page. Does anybody have any questions for these wonderful performers? It looks like we're a bit delayed as well here.
Yeah, it's a little bit
Oh,
delayed
there's
on live
delay,
all the time.
Yeah.
So they'll probably
my God,
act
I'm
like
at the point where I had the pillow.
What?
Now I'm talking about me lactating all over the place.
Oh, no. Sometimes you say it and then it starts happening too. Be like, oh, boobs, and they're like, oh no.
Right?
Oops.
Or like when Chance like starts to cry a little bit, my boobs will just be like, shh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm now walking food. So
yeah.
I
remember one time, like, trying to get it out. I was in like a phone shop and like pulling it down, and this guy was arguing with me at the shop, and then my boob popped out, and his milk was just going like, like, and I'm like, wow, what is life? Like, what is life now?
Yeah. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any questions happening on the Facebook page, so we can keep speaking. So we were talking about self-esteem and confidence, and I have a question for you, Viola Vixen. You said in retrolife.com that burlesque is something that helps you build confidence and meet like-minded people. And I wanted you to speak on your journey with building your confidence through burlesque and the influences that you've had along the way.
Where do you find all these things? Yeah, I think, yeah, I've definitely met like a lot of really wonderful people through burlesque. I mean, I think I have a huge community, and, you know, look at all these wonderful people that I know because of it. I've also met lots of assholes, but, you know, easy come, easy go. And you end up with the ones that you kind of, you know, connect with and have a shared vision with, I guess, you know. And I think that there's, yeah, quite a committed group of people within burlesque community that really want to push burlesque into the future and make it something that's, you know, doing something cool and sending a cool message. And I think those people are really coming closer and closer together, which is great. And then, yeah, with influences, I guess when I started, I was pretty like rock and roll and vintage inspired. So like Russ Meyer and, you know, Tura Satana, that kind of vibe. And then I love like Tarantino and that kind of thing. But as things go on, I'm really kind of, you know, looking and listening to the people who are doing the most like active work and change within our community, not just people who look, you know, cute doing a shimmy on stage, but people who are getting out there and like kicking some butt. So we had quite a lot of people over for like Berlin Burlesque Week last year, like Sydney Devereaux and Sweet Pea and Seven, and MisSa was there. We had Akynos the year before, and yeah, some of the queer people in the scene, yeah, again like Kitten and Lou, and I don't know, there's a pretty wide community of really outspoken people that are the ones that I'm kind of paying more attention to these days, and the ones who are really good at doing a shimmy, I guess.
Some people can do both.
And particularly the ones who can do both. There's a lot of people who can do both, but I think my values have gone from off from being like, you know, wow, like Dita Von Teese's costume's so beautiful, to being like, cool, who's being hot and has hot things to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Martini's watching. Martina gave us one of these. Thank you, Martini. Akynos, I wanted to ask you a question surrounding advocacy and self-esteem. And like in the road, you spoke about how folks, like, because you have children, and you spoke about how folks would try to shame you as a mother because you are so openly a burlesque performer and sex worker. And you talk about showing up and advocating for sex workers and sex workers' rights. And you have a list of organizations that you have actively support. And I also wonder, where did your support and advocacy come from for you to have?
What? Wait. Where did my support and advocacy come from?
Like, yeah, who were your supporters, and who, like, and what were the spaces? Yeah, I could have asked that question better.
It's okay. So the support that came from me as being a sex worker and whatever the hell else I am, that didn't come until way late in life. That didn't happen until I was like in my 30s, when the kids were like teenagers, you know. So the reason why I started doing the advocacy stuff is because there was nobody there. When I was going through a lot of drama when I was a young parent, there was no support system. It was a lot of slut shaming still happening in the world. A lot of the conversations that are happening now was not even in existence 10 years ago, you know? So there was a lot of struggle, parenting, or even just being like young and being in the strip clubs and being nude. Like I never personally had an issue with it. Everyone else did. So I went through all of that alone until I got into my 30s, and then I became a full service sex worker. And that's when I discovered that there were spaces like Swap and Swank that were in New York City, and that they were groups of sex workers doing advocacy at the time around Backpage, when it was still a part of the Village Voice. It was literally the back page of the print edition of the Village Voice. So that's where it started. And then I went to Goddard College. So I was an undergrad at Goddard, and that's when I started to discover a lot about freedom and being Black and being a woman, and just being really political. So yeah, I started doing the advocacy work with the sex workers in New York. And I realized then that there wasn't a lot of visibility for Black sex workers. And I felt as if a couple of things, the Black sex workers needed to have a space of their own that they felt safe in. As well, I also wondered, and this was partly in part because I was undergrad at Goddard, which is a hippy dippy ass school that kind of opens you up in different ways I didn't know were possible. And I just was like, wow, where would I have been and who could I have been had there been people supporting me and not like making me feel like I was bad for working? Because that's all I was doing was working, who I know there has to have been and still been other Black mothers who were doing in this business that were not getting the support. There has to be other people that are out there like me. So then I, started coming up with the idea to create a space specifically to support these current and former sex workers who are also parents. Some of them, some of us are parents and have to go through a lot of discrimination because we are working or using our bodies in a way that other people just don't feel comfortable with, and that shouldn't have any bearing on our parenting and our right to our families. So basically the support came from other hoes, support hoes. How about that? There's a group called Support Hoes. So that's how it started, but that started so late in the game. By then, my whole family dynamic had been shattered because of all that shaming and harassment that went on from when I was like a teenager into my 30s. Actually, it went on for a very long time. So thanks. So yeah, the hoes saved me. And Burlesque saved me as well. Additionally, too, because when I was still going in and out of court, family court, I had started doing Burlesque, and like you could tell the judge had already made up her mind. And I was very depressed for a long time because I was going through this serious, like emotional, psychological, and financial abuse, and everybody was against me. Even though the work that I was doing there was nothing I was doing was illegal. But people were so against me and I didn't really have any support. And I was doing Burlesque, and that was the one thing that made me feel like I had a purpose, outside of like trying to fight for my life. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, this guy is doing this. I'm doing this thing. I'll just continue doing this thing. So yeah.
Yeah, Burlesque gives a lot of joy sometimes, I think.
Yeah, now it could go to hell, but then it was like my saving grace.
But I also feel like that's the importance of like us being able to have now these, fuck mainstream spaces, but like our underground communities where folks are doing the work, where we can go there and experience a little space of joy and acceptance in the midst of all the bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to conclude the panel for today, but beforehand, I want to thank you all for being here, for sharing your stories, for talking about the things that you gained confidence and self-esteem from, and also sharing with us the work that you've been doing to make sure that our community here is inclusive enough for those who are coming after us. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Can I say one thing before we go? Because I know we were talking about the body and burlesque and all this shit. Listen, everybody, whoever is listening, I don't feel good about my body. And I just want people to know that shit, okay? I'm just kind of sick of people thinking like, you feel so good. No, bitch, I don't. I really wish I did not eat that Twinkie tonight. I really want to go to the gym, but I'm tired. And I really wish I could afford liposuction or whatever, but I spent it all in this apartment. I felt like I needed to do that instead, because I would have gone down to Colombia and gotten surgery if I fucking didn't care enough about my space. So I don't feel good. I feel fat. And that doesn't mean being fat doesn't mean that you can't feel good. I don't like it. So I just wanted to share that with the burlesque world, that we don't all feel great in our like bubbly, you know. I'm hoping to lose these 20 pounds and then feel a little bit more comfortable. Plus it hurts, okay? It hurts, but I do it anyway because
that's really important thing though. It's a really important thing to say though, and to listen to, because people often think with burlesque that it's just body positivity and that everyone comes there and is accepted and we all feel amazing and we just love it. It's a double-edged sword. Sorry.
But I can say something to that. I can say something to that too. It's like I find out because I growing up in Germany was like women wearing Levi's 501 who were like made from straight men. Men says, you know what I mean? It's like all my girlfriends were wearing Levi's 501. I couldn't get that over my ass because it's not made for people who have a shape. So it's like, I think, to be honest, I love stripping so much, and this is why I probably do still burlesque, because I was a stripper for 15 years, and I love to wear badass heels and fuck all to it, because when I'm not wearing clothes that were made for white people, I feel slim. I only feel fat when I'm trying to wear something that wasn't made for my body shape. And I think this is why I'm still now, even though I'm a circus artist, really do burlesque, because I like to be fucking naked. And where can you be naked in public? It's only burlesque.
Right. That's right.
And we can sometimes have the same body and on some days just feel really like empowered and hot in our costumes and ready for it. And the next day in the same body, in the same fucking costume, feel horrible and, you know, yuck and gross and fat in a way that doesn't feel positive for you. So I think we've got to be careful with representing this thing where we're like, come to burlesque, it's body positive. It's a body process, and it's a place to process your body identity for sure. But
I'm gonna go process 25 crunches in that bedroom right now, by the way.
I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you. Akynos, you can do it. It's all in the mind.
Do it. I did 75 squats this morning before I did my German
75?
Yeah,
75. That's a lot.
Not straight, like 25 stretch, 25 more, you know.
But you still did 75.
That's a lot.
I've never done 75 my entire life. Like,
no,
wow. Yeah,
this
you
is
gotta
like
do it every day.
This is like every day.
I do 7,500 squats, Akynos. Well, thank y'all for this time.
Thank you.
It was great.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thanks so much, Codex.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Enjoy your nights. Wait, I think I should.
What do we? I don't know. Should I leave now? It's just you and I.
I mean, you can stay. We can talk more about lactation, but
yeah, look at your boobs a bit more. Bye, Adrian.
Bye, Viola. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, that concludes our panel for today. Thank you so much for those who joined on Facebook Live, and definitely stay tuned for the rest of the programs that are going to be going down this week at Kiezkapelle, at the Kirche in Neukölln, and also online as well. Going to be observing Corona regulations, and I hope you definitely wear your masks and bring your sanitizer and enjoy yourself. We'll see you on Wednesday with the House of Living Colors show. Bye. I don't know how to exit out of this. Leave.